One of the things that makes our hardware very unique is that whether a specific node is a networking role, or a storage role, or a compute role, or even one of our intelligence roles, fundamentally, we built everything on a common platform. Those nodes can never be separated from HyperCloud. When you go to add a node, you just plug it in and it joins the cluster. One of the magic things that we get out of this ephemerality is the fact that there's no single point of failure in the system. One of the terms we use is eventual convergence. So all of the nodes eventually end up in the same state. It almost looks like a flock of birds, as it were, flying through the sky, all following one another, as an example. In order to be a true cloud, you have to be infinitely scalable. So whether it's compute resources, storage resources, networking resources, we have to plan for it to potentially be infinite. They can also scale differently from one another. For example, if you're into just pure object storage, you can have a cluster that's almost entirely made up of storage nodes. You can have a GPU farm cluster where you have racks and racks of GPU accelerated nodes, but you might only need a couple of NVMe storage nodes to act as scratch space for processing your GPU, your AI ML data. In that case, you're going to be super accelerated compute heavy. And in any case, HyperCloud doesn't care. It lets you scale that as large as you'd like, regardless of the resource type. And honestly, that's a core tenet of what makes an on-prem cloud a true cloud. And it's something that's very unique with how we do it in HyperCloud. By taking a secure by design approach for both the development and the implementation of HyperCloud, you're not really meant to have to tune a whole lot of knobs to actually get the product secure. For example, you don't really know how many compute or storage nodes make up a cluster. You're not meant to. You're meant to just consume it like a cloud. You only hit the API endpoint, and the API endpoint is the only thing that's actually exposed. There's a limited number of ports that are actually exposed on that same endpoint, and again, that minimizes the risk exposure. The day zero experience looks a lot like unbox all of the equipment, rack, stack, cable it, plug it in, and the nodes automatically discover each other. Once the HyperCloud's reachable, without any additional configuration, you end up with an API endpoint that you can talk to with infrastructure as code, tools such as Terraform, your own software integrations with our published API, a web GUI, as well as a command line interface to interact with the cloud. From there, you're just moments away from going into a marketplace, maybe pulling down a virtual machine image, instantiating it, and deploying your very first workload, just within a few minutes of turning on this equipment. But it's not all just about the day zero or the day one experience. What about day two? How do I live with HyperCloud? Well, from there, that's where the real magic happens. How do I install security patches? How do I upgrade it? How do I add nodes? How do I remove nodes? We bundle all of the software you need is all in a single unified firmware image that you copy to your HyperCloud cluster, apply it with a single command, and when you're ready, you can kick off a rolling reboot of the cluster, and it takes effect on every node, live migrates workloads around, the customers never even know that it happened. From a hardware perspective, all you have to do is plug the node type in. It doesn't matter what kind of node type it is. Just plug it in. It'll automatically join the cluster. It's ready to use. Immediately, workloads will start getting deployed to that node, or storage will start balancing over, and the node will immediately become part of that cluster and start getting used. Removing a node from the cluster, an often overlooked part of the lifecycle of a cluster, is super easy with HyperCloud. If it's compute, those workloads will get live migrated off of that host, and the node will get powered off. If it's storage, the data will get migrated off of the node, and when the node is completely drained, it'll get powered off. When SoftIron started out, we knew that we were going to build HyperCloud, and we knew to do it successfully, we were going to have to do it with our own hardware. We were going to have to design everything in-house from scratch. In the IT industry, that's abnormal. You might think we're crazy, but I don't think we are. If you think of every great product that you know, well, those products started out being designed completely in-house and not ordered from a catalog. So to design something truly world-changing like HyperCloud, I'd argue that the folks trying to assemble it from commodity products from a catalog, they're the weird ones.